Just days ago, nobody saw this coming. Lil Scrappy was clinging to life, his condition rapidly deteriorating. Doctors and family members had begun preparing for the worst. Fans were devastated, the hip-hop world held its breath, and even Scrappy's closest friends feared this could be the end of the road for the Atlanta rap legend. But now, in a shocking turn of events, Scrappy is showing signs of a miraculous recovery, something even top medical experts can't explain. Doctors who had given grim predictions are now stunned. "We've never seen anything like this," one hospital insider reportedly said. Family members, who had been bracing for the worst, are left in disbelief. Mama D is convinced this is divine intervention, while Bambi is still processing the emotional roller coaster of nearly losing him. And fans? They're desperate for answers. What happened in that hospital room? What did Scrappy say when he finally opened his eyes? Is this the beginning of his road to full recovery, or just a fleeting miracle before another devastating turn? The tension in the hospital was thick. Just days ago, Scrappy lay motionless in his hospital bed, hooked up to machines, his condition worsening by the hour. Doctors had already told the family to prepare for the worst. The once energetic rapper, known for his raw energy and powerful presence, was fighting for his life, and it didn't look like he was going to win. Mama D had been inconsolable, refusing to leave the hospital since Scrappy was admitted. She paced the hallways, whispering prayers under her breath. "This shouldn't have happened. My son is a fighter," she had screamed in frustration just a day earlier. Bambi, Scrappy's estranged wife, had a more complicated reaction. While she still cared for him, their rocky relationship made things difficult. Some whispered she hadn't wanted to come to the hospital at all, that she had been pressured by friends and family. But when she saw Scrappy lying there, so vulnerable, something in her heart broke. "I don't care what we've been through," she reportedly told close friends. "I just want him to be okay." And then, the unthinkable happened. It started as a slight movement, barely noticeable. A nurse thought she saw Scrappy's fingers twitch, but dismissed it as a reflex. Then it happened again. This time others noticed. "Did you see that?" one nurse whispered to another. Before they could process it, Scrappy's eyes fluttered, then again, and in a moment that sent shockwaves through the room, his eyes opened. The beeping of machines filled the silence as nurses rushed to his bedside, calling for doctors. The man they had nearly given up on was waking up. Mama D, sitting in the corner with her head in her hands, looked up and gasped. "Scrappy?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, as if afraid to hope. Scrappy's lips parted, but at first, no words came out. His eyes darted around, confusion evident. Doctors flooded in, checking vitals, asking him questions. Could he hear them? Did he know where he was? And then, he finally spoke, his voice weak but clear. "Mama." That one word was all it took. Mama D broke down, rushing to his side, gripping his hand as if afraid he'd slip away again. "Oh baby, you scared me half to death," she sobbed. Bambi, frozen in the doorway, had silent tears streaming down her face. For once, she was speechless. The doctors were stunned. Just 24 hours earlier, Scrappy's condition had been critical. His organs were showing signs of shutting down, his body unresponsive to treatment. They had braced for the worst. Yet here he was, awake, alert, calling out for his mother. Dr. Reynolds, the lead physician, shook his head. "This is incredible," he murmured, analyzing the monitors. "We need to run tests. This isn't something we see every day." Outside the hospital, news spread like wildfire. A nurse had texted a friend, and within minutes, social media erupted. "Y'all, Scrappy just woke up. This is a miracle." Fans outside the hospital, who had been holding signs and praying, erupted in cheers. Posts flooded timelines, prayers worked. "Scrappy is back. I need an update, now." But inside the hospital room, things remained fragile. Scrappy was awake, but weak. He tried to move, but his muscles refused. "Where am I?" he finally asked. "You're in the hospital, baby," Mama D said, brushing his hair back. "You've been real sick, but you're going to be okay." Scrappy's gaze shifted to Bambi. Silence filled the room. Their emotions, love, hurt, regret, relief, were palpable. Finally, he managed a small, tired smile. "Didn't think I'd see you here." Bambi let out a shaky laugh. "Yeah, well, I couldn't stay away." It was a powerful moment, but so many questions remained. The doctors needed to run more tests. The family had to process what had just happened. And the world was watching, waiting to know, was this truly a miracle? Or was there another twist waiting just around the corner? One thing was certain, Lil Scrappy's story was far from over. "This happened to me. I deserve to know the truth. So start talking." The silence that followed was suffocating. Just as Bambi seemed ready to reveal whatever secret she was holding on to, a knock at the door interrupted the moment. A nurse peeked inside, looking nervous. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here asking to see him." Mama D frowned. "Who?" The nurse hesitated before answering. "His father." Scrappy's entire body stiffened. His father, the man who had been absent for most of his life, a fleeting presence at best. Mama D's reaction was instant, her protective instincts flaring. "Oh hell no, he don't need to be here." Bambi, on the other hand, looked torn. "Scrap, maybe he should hear him out." Scrappy stared at them both, his mind racing. First, he wakes up to find his recovery is some kind of medical mystery. Now Bambi is hiding something from him. And on top of that, the father who had never really been there suddenly wanted to be involved? This wasn't just a miraculous recovery, this was the start of something much bigger. As news of Lil Scrappy's incredible recovery spread like wildfire, it seemed like the whole world was waiting with bated breath to see how his story would unfold. His road to recovery wouldn't be easy, but one thing was clear, he had beaten the odds. Lying in that hospital bed, surrounded by the quiet hum of machines and the concerned faces of his family, one question loomed over him: what comes next? Before Scrappy could even think about the future, the past was coming back to haunt him. Mama D couldn't help but feel a mixture of emotions as she looked at her son. Anger. Hurt. The years of resentment and battles fought both in public and behind closed doors were still fresh. Scrappy had always been her baby, and no matter how grown he was, she had always fought for him. But this wasn't just about the physical battle. This was an emotional one, too. Scrappy's relationship with his father, Daryl Richardson Sr., had always been fractured. Years of absence, broken promises, and unspoken words had left a deep wound. The neglect had turned into bitterness, and reconciliation seemed impossible. Yet, life had a way of shifting perspectives. Scrappy had to decide, was he ready to make peace with his past? Daryl stood at the door, hesitation in his stance. The tension in the room was unbearable. It had been years since he had even tried to reach out, and now, in the midst of Scrappy's health crisis, here he was. His voice cracked as he finally spoke. "Son, I don't know how to say this, but I'm sorry. I've been a bad father. I know I wasn't there when you needed me. I should have been. But I never imagined it would take something like this for me to realize just how much I messed up." Scrappy's fists clenched. The weight of his past collided with his present. Anger bubbled up inside him, but beneath it, something else stirred. Was it forgiveness? Mama D wasn't one to hold back. "No, Daryl. You don't get to just come in here and act like you can erase all those years. You weren't there for him, and now you want to show up just because he's lying in a hospital bed?" Scrappy's frustration boiled over. "Ma, enough. I'm tired. We've been fighting for years, and I just can't do it anymore. I'm alive right now, and I want peace, even if that means hearing what he has to say." Mama D's anger shifted into sadness. "Scrappy, don't you see? He doesn't deserve your forgiveness. After all the times he ignored you, after all the broken promises." Scrappy looked at her, his voice firm. "Ma, I don't need you to fight my battles anymore. I've spent too many years holding on to this anger. It's time to let go. It's time to move on." Daryl stood there, silent, watching the exchange. There were no words that could undo the past. No defense he could offer. He simply nodded, his heart heavy with regret. Before the tension could reach its breaking point, the door swung open again. A nurse stepped in with urgent news. "Lil Scrappy, we just got the results of your most recent tests. I know the doctor said you were making progress, but this is beyond what we expected." Scrappy's heartbeat quickened. "What do you mean?" The nurse took a steady breath. "Your organs that were failing just days ago? They're now functioning normally. Your brain activity, which had us worried, it's completely stable. There's no sign of any lasting damage. Honestly, this recovery, it's nothing short of miraculous." For a moment, no one spoke. Disbelief filled the room. Scrappy blinked, trying to process. "So, I'm going to be okay?" The nurse smiled. "Not just okay. You're going to make a full recovery. We never expected to see results like this, especially not so quickly. Your progress is unlike anything we've seen before." The room erupted into a mix of cheers and tears. Bambi hugged Scrappy tightly, overwhelmed with joy. Mama D covered her mouth, tears brimming in her eyes. Even Daryl let out a breath of relief. Scrappy looked around at everyone, his voice barely above a whisper. "So this is real? I'm really going to be okay?" Dr. Reynolds, who had been observing, finally spoke. "Scrappy, this recovery is unprecedented. There's no medical explanation for it. We have no idea how your body is healing at such a rapid pace, but we're not questioning it. This is a miracle." Tears streamed down Bambi's face. "This is a blessing, Scrappy. You've got another chance at life. We've got another chance as a family." But even as Scrappy embraced the relief of his recovery, one question remained. Could he repair his relationship with his father as easily as his body was healing? Scrappy turned to Daryl, his voice calm but resolute. "You're right about one thing, Daryl. This is a second chance, not just for me, but for all of us. But second chances aren't easy. They don't come without challenges." Daryl nodded, a tear slipping down his cheek. "I know. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I hope, in time, you'll see that I want to be here for you now." Scrappy took a deep breath. "I can't promise that everything will change overnight. But I'm willing to try, for both of us." The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was the kind of silence that marked a new beginning. For the first time in years, Scrappy felt hope. As he lay there, resting, he knew his journey was far from over. But for now, the weight of the past felt a little lighter. He was alive. He had his family, his friends, and most importantly, a second chance. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. But he wouldn't be walking it alone. Now, the world is watching. What happens next in Scrappy's miraculous comeback? Will he fully reconcile with his father? Will his health continue to improve, or will new challenges arise? The answers are still unfolding. But one thing's for sure, Lil Scrappy's story is far from over.